Hello and welcome everybody to Revolutionize Your AP Operations. Unlock AI-driven efficiency with Abby in OnBase in this insider session where we are so lucky to have Abby MVP, Travis Spangler, and your favorite innovation Senior Vice President, Krause, and AP aficionado, because I've built a lot of AP systems, here to show you all the latest and greatest technologies. This is not your everyday AP solution. So let's dive right in. First, let's start with a quick quote. Efficiency is doing better what is already being done. I mean, Peter Drucker nailed it. And this applies so well to AP. AP, you're doing it today. Now, you may only be doing it via email. You might actually be still using snail mail and actual writing physical checks. But this is going to revolutionize it. You're going to be able to do this better by the time you get done with this insider session. So what is this AP, Intelligent Document Processing? Well, Intelligent Document Processing, or IDP, we like our acronyms, you know that, is the use of advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and optical character recognition to automatically classify, extract, and process data from any kind of data type. So all the documents coming in through your AP process, like packing slips and invoices, will be able to come in, classify them, extract the information very accurately, and then pass it downstream process. And of course, you've been using some of these technologies for a long time. Travis has been in the industry forever, and OCR, ML have been here, and it did good. But with AI, it really goes to that next level. And for those of you that have played around with ChatGPT, you understand some of the capabilities and powers of Microsoft Copilot for your emails, you're going to see it in action within AP. So why would I want to do this in my AP process? What are some of the key benefits? Well, of course, I want to reduce costs. Everybody's very sensitive to cost these days. We're going to help you reduce costs. But it speeds up the process dramatically, including improving data accuracy. And you're going to be able to improve data security and compliance for those sensitive invoices along that path. By leveraging the power of AI, you also can improve your vendor experience. It is so amazing. We're going to show you examples of it. So if you don't believe me now, you will certainly when you get done with the demonstrations. So what are some of the key things we've seen from AP outcomes across our deployments? Well, first, if you implement an IDP and AI for invoice processing solution, you can reduce your invoice cycle times by 80 to 90%. That is a dramatic reduction in time it takes from an invoice, from the time you receive an invoice to the time that you pay that invoice and get it through your system. Dramatically improves. You can also improve the extraction rate 90 to 95%. And we all know accurate data is critical to any intelligent automation process, including AI. And that reduces errors and those exceptions that someone has to handle downstream. So another basic benefit. And last but certainly not least, there are strategic benefits for implementing IDP and AI in your AP process. First, you're going to be able to save 50 to 60% in your financial close time. So every month you need to close those books, you're going to do it in half the time that you did before. And more importantly, you get an extra 1 to 2% early pay discount. That doesn't sound like a whole lot on the surface, but let's say you only buy $1 million worth of merchandise and you get the 2%. That's $20,000 that you get to throw right to the bottom line. That's pretty impactful. And if I was the one that saved 2% and got $20,000 for the organization, I would hope my boss would want to give me say half of that on my bonus check. I mean, it just seems fair, right? Wouldn't that be a great way to show the power of this solution when you implement it? So now we know why we would want to do this and how it can benefit our organization. Let's dive in to some of the tech that makes this all dream come true. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Travis to talk a little bit about ABBYY Vantage.
Awesome. Well, it's sure great to be with you all. I'm very excited to talk about ABBYY Vantage because this is cool technology that has been around for a while and it's very, very innovative. And today's not your normal kind of insider session. This is actually going to be pretty cool. So, but just to kind of introduce the tech, ABBYY technology is looking at a document. We sometimes call that computer vision. So what kind of document is this? Can I understand it? Do I know the document type? What can I extract off of it? And sometimes we call that the insight. So this is a very standard flow. A document comes in, the software is going to understand what it is. And then importantly, we're going to try to extract some insight. We're going to take a little spin on the insight today, though. And Chris, as part of our demo where today, we're going to show you how you can use AI and some large language models and some cool newer technology to even give you more additional insight than what IDP has done historically for us. This is purpose-built artificial intelligence already. These platforms are very, very strong platforms. I won't bore you by reading every checkpoint or every single bullet point on this slide, but just realize that when you purchase an ABBYY IDP solution today, you get all of this as part of the solution. You get image enhancement, you get object detection, you get classification, you get understanding, unstructured documents. And it's a combination of the technology here that we're sharing on this slide that makes it all come true. And the beauty of it is that you don't have to worry about how you source every piece of these technologies. It's built within the platform for you. So a really cool way to think about this technology is that you're getting it all with just one product.
I love that, Travis. And as our great friend Jeff Comer on many insider sessions has noted, this is your AI bingo card, and you're all winners in the game of AI bingo.
I love it. I love it. When we think about a flow of a document, we may have invoices. If we think about, the AR side of the house, we may have purchase orders and packing slips. So we have a combination of invoices that come in. And by the way, they can come in a variety of different ways. Sometimes we get them through snail mail. Sometimes we get them through email. Sometimes we have to download them from a portal. So there's a variety of ways we can get these documents in. And as they come in, we're going to send them into ABBYY Vantage. And this is what you're going to see here in just a second. ABBYY's going to interpret the documents. It's going to say, what kind of document type is this? What do I need to extract off of this? And if I need a human in the loop, of course, always our goal is to not have a human in the loop as part of the process. Reality tells us that there are situations that make really good sense for us to have a human in the loop. And you're actually going to see some of this in real time with us today. But once that process is done, we've classified the document, we've extracted it, we've had a human, if needed, and only if needed, verify some points on the document, then we will extract that. Today, in today's demos, we're going to pass it on to OnBase. A lot of our clients are OnBase clients, and I think you'll really appreciate this flow that documents come in, we send them through ABBYY for this intelligence that we're talking about, and then, of course, we'll store them in OnBase. And I think what Chris hasn't told you is that you're even going to see a cool spin on the OnBase technology as well. Cool. These are some common uses. Today, our focus is on invoice processing, and we will keep it very specific to AP. But I do want you to think about other uses in your environment. We have a lot of these, what we call skills and different types of technologies that are just built right out of the box. We know what an invoice is. We know what a packing slip is. We know tax forms. We know expense receipts. And a lot of these do not take months and months for us to onboard. In fact, they're very aggressive timelines. And these are some common use cases for IDP that maybe you can think about as we're walking through an AP specific demo today.
I love that, Travis. Maximizing the value of an investment.
Yeah. Yep.
So Travis, show us what it is.
Oh, I am excited to show this to you, Chris. Now, I'm going to share my screen. Awesome. So this is what we call our manual review screen. The manual review screen is where documents go if we need a human in the loop. Now, you just heard me. This is not ideal. These are our scenarios here is a document comes in and we would route these automatically. However, when there is an exception, we want a human to be able to manage that exception, and that's where this screen starts. On the left, you can see here that I've loaded 4 different invoices, and there's a few different scenarios that we're going to walk through today. The first invoice is a perfect invoice. You can tell that because there's a little secret I'll tell you is that there's a flag here. And when there's not a flag on a document, it means it's a perfect document. The software is classified, extracted. It's even ran through, just a little hint, what I'm going to show you in a few minutes, through some AI logic here to verify information on that document. So this document typically does not even need a human in the loop. But today I want to show it to you because I think it's always good to kind of see what a good document looks like and also what the software does when it has a few different types of exceptions. And we'll talk through that here. But that's what you see here on the left is those 4 different documents. The software has performed what we call a classification step. So the software says, I know that these are invoice documents. And by the way, this does use a machine learning model. So as the software sees more and more invoices, it will have the ability to learn different document types. Okay, so very important. Chris is nodding his head, so I hope he understands what I'm talking about. But on the left, that's what we often refer to as our classification modeling for the batch. On the right is what I like to refer to as our extraction model or our document model. So now that I know this is an invoice, I want to extract the information on that document. And you'll see that here. Anything from header information to line items to making sure we know who the business unit is, who's expected to pay the bill, making sure we know who the vendor is, looking at our vendor master to confirm that we know who this vendor is and how we expect to pay them. So all of that is just built right into this technology. There's nothing that you need to set up. We can plug and play essentially an invoice operations today. And not to bore you with reading every field, but this is already pre-built models. These are pre-built solutions that are ready to go. So you would get all of this as part of your ABBYY solution, and including things like line items, of course. So not only do we have the header information, we do have line items, but there's a special little spot that I haven't shown you yet that is not part of a typical scenario or typical demo, because we saved it especially for you as part of today's experience. And that is this little role here that we call AI. And this is where we can take IDP solutions and add a little flavor to it, add a little spin, and ask a large language model some questions. For example, is there different types of meaning on this document? And I'll show you some good examples where I'll explain that a little bit deeper. But is there something on this document that we should just be aware of? Is there an anomaly? Is there just something goofy on this document? Maybe hinting towards a fraud scenario with this document. What about trends? Is this document kind of what we would see acceptable for this vendor, for the type of products that this vendor is providing to us? And then another option here is suggested action. So based on the information we extracted, the AI rules, anomalies, and trends, the AI is going to tell us and make a recommendation on whether or not we should approve or escalate or even reject the final decision on the invoice. So this is a really cool step. This is taking your typical AP processing, which a lot of you are doing a day. And if you're not, we'd love to explore that with you. But this takes that and puts that spin of how do we make this even more useful for us so that our business folks aren't just verifying data, but they're verifying that the invoices that are coming in are actually relevant and important to our organization, and that our vendors, our suppliers are following the rules that we have set for them. So that's a very clean invoice. The AI here is showing us, hey, all the rules are met, there's no problems. But let me kind of show you some ways that we could implement this in real life scenarios that are a little bit more interesting. So I told you about how AI can help us interpret meaning. And this is a perfect example where maybe this vendor here said, hey, the invoice is due, or their terms are 45 days post receipt. Well, that's maybe atypical in the way that a vendor would tell us about terms. So the AI has the ability for us to say, hey, you know what? When we read that, we actually read this as a standard net 45 payment terms for us. Now that's important because when we perform integration to OnBase and our ERP systems, we probably want to report payment terms in a very standard format. We don't want to record how every random vendor tells us their payment terms. We want to be very standard in the way that we report, in this example, payment terms. So the meaning there is the software is able to interpret the text for us and then tell us, hey, here's how we typically would refer to that in our systems. It's also interesting when we look at anomalies on this one. So here's a cool example where potentially the invoice was paid on a weekend, or excuse me, was dated for a weekend. Now, that is more of a caution, but you could see very easily how we could start incorporating different prompts or different questions that we could ask the AI to get a little bit more fraud hint. Is this an accurate invoice? Are we seeing some fraudulent activity? But here the AI is just notifying us, hey, this invoice date is on a weekend. Sometimes that's okay, but nonetheless, it is probably an anomaly. I'm sure most of our suppliers do issue invoices on standard business days. An interesting point here as well is that we look at the trend. And here the AI is telling us, hey, Travis, the invoice is 3 times more than the average that we see for this vendor. Now, that is a very important point, right? If the average is 3 times more, what's going on? Do we need to maybe ask the AI about specific line items that are outside of our standard prices that we've seen? So this is just another hint here where we're getting a little bit more detail about what we're seeing here on the trend perspective so that we can make the right decision. And the cool part here is that the software, by seeing these 3 different points, meanings, anomalies, trends, is telling us, hey, we're going to ask you to escalate this one for additional review. So maybe we need to call the supplier. Maybe we need to get a team lead or a supervisor in place, or a buyer, even if it's something that's a little bit more critical to us. So a very cool way that we can utilize AI. I'll show you a few more of these because I don't want to steal too much from Chris. He has some cool stuff he wants to show you too. But here I'll scroll down to our AI section as well. Here's one where we find handwriting on a document. And believe it or not, that's typically pretty hard for IDP solutions. So the AI, the power of IDP plus AI is that it does give us the ability to look for things like handwriting. Here looks like a supplier wrote urgent here to tell us, hey, we want you to process this as soon as possible. But what would happen if they crossed out a line item? What would happen if they crossed out a line item and changed the price of it? Those are probably things that we want to know about as an organization that happened. There might be really good reasons from a business perspective they did it, but we still want the AI to call it out to us. And that's the beauty of these anomalies that we can do. Also the AI will tell us very frankly, hey, in this case, the invoice is within the acceptable variance. So there is no concern here as far as trend. And in this case, the AI is saying, hey, even though I found handwriting, in this case, it doesn't intercept any of the text of the document, I'm going to make the recommendation that you approve this invoice. So from an operator standpoint, we're still bringing this invoice to you because there's handwriting. There may be some other critical information, but in this case, the AI is actually making a suggestion here. I'll show you one more, and then we'll get to some of the OnBase integration. If I scroll down here and we look at what the AI is telling us, this is actually one that Chris highlighted here in his slides. What happens if there's an early pay discount? Now, as you can imagine, every vendor can disclose how they do, if they do early pay discounts. It may be a field with, early pay and then the amount percentage that you get. Sometimes it's within text at the very last page because they don't really want to give you a percentage back. So how do we use AI to interpret the text of the document where it's maybe not standard? And early pay is a perfect example of one. Here, the software is looking for that here as part of the meaning. This invoice does also have an anomaly that it's dated on the weekend. And here we're also seeing that this trend here, saying that there's been a recent spike in the invoice volume. So it's really outside the average. And so, we're calling this out to your AP team to make a common sense decision here. And once again, the suggestion action here is that we would escalate this for further review. Now, what would typically happen is we would make common business decisions. We'd make the right business decisions on these. And then what we're going to do is we're going to complete this. Now, what I want you to be aware of is Chris is going to show you some really cool things. Our next step is that we're going to pass these invoices to OnBase, and you're going to see a really cool screen of how we enable your approvers to walk through the experience and maybe even show you some dashboards of what that experience looks like. And then he's going to even bring in an AI spin on that side of the world as well. So, Chris, I'm going to complete these here, and then I'm going to give you back the screen. And why don't you show these great folks what I've been teasing them about here for the last 10 minutes.
Travis, amazing job. There's no surprise why you are the MVP because that was fantastic. And I love seeing how Abby can incorporate AI to do advanced. Once I get my data, what does that mean? And how can I leverage that to further enhance my AP process? It's just phenomenal.
Yes.
Well, this is our AP screen that Travis was teasing for you, and it may not look like your typical OnBase screen. Some of you may already know that this is Highland's brand new app builder screens. These are custom tailored screens that I can build for anybody in my organization. They're really role-based screens. They are URL based, as you can see here. And you can see this was built specifically for my accounts payable team. So all those invoices that came from Abby are in OnBase and they go to my OnBase workflow. And of course, if you need to know how to do an OnBase workflow, we can show you that another time because that is too much that we'd have to cover in that case. But I've got a very clean screen here to be able to manage all of my APs. And you can see right here on these big cards, I have all these lovely numbers like, hey, and if I click on this card right here, I'm missing vendor. Well, that's weird. It went through my system. It didn't find a vendor, and I released it to my OnBase system. And so now somebody has to go in and find that vendor and or map that vendor. And if I just click on one of these items and I open it up in my screen, I'm going to be presented with the options of what I can do for this particular unknown vendor. And those options are up here. And this is what makes this really, really as a lovely solution and easy for your operators to manage because these options are in the terms that I use. It's based on my OnBase workflow, and it's based on what I configured in OnBase. However, I can label these anything I like. So I can make it very easy for my end user to learn how to do this process and how to execute against those invoices that I've received. And each one of these buttons, I'll just click on add note for a quick note. And so you can see it in action. It's very easy to interact with. So each and every one of these, and I can click and manage all of my forms in one easy button. So now I'm gonna go back just so you can get back to the home screen here for just a minute. If I notice if I click on here, a lot of times you say, well, geez, I know all these came from Travis and Abby. I know they're great. I basically just need to improve my 10 invoices. You notice when I started clicking on here, I can take a lot of these same actions directly from my list of items. I don't have to open up each one. And now I can apply a note to all of them, or I could approve all of them or reject all of them directly from this list. So very, very easy way for me to interact with my different queues that are listed right here. And you notice I'm only looking at the ones that I have access to. So a very limited set of information. I can also search and find things in here very easy. So a very, very powerful tool. And also, of course, as Travis alluded to, I have the ability to leverage my reporting dashboard directly here in my app builder screen. So this was personally delivered to me. Any of the dashboards that I have access to can be displayed here so that I can take a look at and see where things are within my process. And because you know how OnBase dashboards work, I can filter right down into the various items, find them quickly, and match them up very fast. So going back to our home screen, because I'm fully customizing this, I can do anything I like. I can request things like OnBase Unity forms to say submit a check. I can do other document uploads. So if I'm in here and I just need somebody submitted additional information, like maybe now somebody gave me a document that I need to upload, I can do that directly from here. A very clean interface. But this is, you know, this one here that's kind of sitting here staring at you for just a second. This AP agent. So this was brand new. This is really exciting. This is an AI agent that is out in what's called Highland Content Intelligence Cloud. And you can see here, it launched me right into my agent window. And these are all the agents that are available to me. These are living up in the cloud, also known as CIC because we love our acronyms. So I'm going to click on my AP agent. And my AP agent has as much of the information in my OnBase system as I want to share with it. So that could be my packing slips, my contract with that vendor, all my invoices. And now I can ask it questions about all that information. You can see there's an agent focus on the right-hand side. That agent focus, I'm going to close right now. That just means I can filter in and ask questions specifically related to an invoice, a packing slip, a contract. But I want to look over my entire corpus of information and look for answers to things. And the best part is, I don't need to know what a keyword is. I don't need to even know exact terms. I can simply ask natural language questions and get an answer. So I've got one prepped up here just so you don't have to see my terrible typing, where which vendor has the highest discount and full shipment of all products ordered. That's what I want to know. Who gave me my full shipments? Because that's going to play into understanding who are my really, really good vendors. And so I'm asking my AP agent based on my corpus of information that I gave it, and that came from my OnBase system. And let's check out the response it got. So these are from those vendors that Travis just showed you from Addy. And the analysis shows based on the purchase orders, you ordered 7 items and 1 item. These relate to those invoices that Travis just processed, custom kitchens, our goods receipts. So we've matched up the goods receipts and we can see that all of our different totals and items. And then it gives you a really nice conclusion that for this one, Custom Kitchens of Bayshore was our big winner, had the highest discount and fulfilled the orders with all items. Thanks, gave me a good discount and shipped me all my items. I love that vendor, right? I want to do more business with that vendor. It also did some payment terms analysis directly for me. And you can still see here, based on all the different ways that it did the analysis, even based on payment terms, Custom Kitchens of Bayshore still won. They were still the best with a discount, and they gave you a little longer term than other vendors to pay it. So I'm probably going to want to buy more things from them, improving my vendor relation, which I just absolutely love. And those are the types of things that you can garner from all this great information leveraging your AI agent. You can ask it anything about your invoice processing and what is happening from a trend analysis. Am I getting all my discounts? Am I managing my vendor well so that I can leverage that information further to improve my overall AP process? And as a bonus, because we have just a couple minutes left, Travis kind of teased it, I'm going to show you one extra special thing just for you.
Don't leave these guys hanging, Chris. I made big promises.
I know.
I made big promises.
It's super exciting. So that was the first big AI piece from Highland, and these agents are amazing. They can leverage all of your on-base content. So cool. Ask it anything, get a really, really reliable response, including the relationship back to the documents that created that analysis. But some of you are like, oh, I'm still using email as my workflow engine. I really don't have a workflow. What do I do? Well, using the same CI/CD product called Automate up in the Highland Cloud, I can create a process using AI. So if I give a process name, I'm going to say it's an AP process. And I'm going to generate it with AI. So I'm going to say create an AP, oops, told you I was a bad typer, process with 2 levels of approval based on dollar amount. And I'm just going to say generate. So this is going to take its time. It's going to generate through and create a workflow for me because I don't have one today. And I absolutely would love to have one. This will go through and take all the best practices that have been out and baked in models for years and give you a foundation for building your first AP process. So even if you're brand new and you don't have an AP process today, that's totally fine. All the amazing things that Travis showed you and the things that just showed you can be created leveraging AI automatically simply by asking or telling it what you want it to be able to do. And while I won't be 100%, I mean, just being fully transparent, as you can see here, I want to modify your process. What a great start to building your intelligent automated AP process. So I've got a reviewer. I can check the invoice amount. Do I need to have director approval? Because that's the secondary level of approval. Once I get them all approved, then it goes for process to payment, typically through your ERP system. Wow, pretty
Chris,
amazing.
You did not disappoint, my friend. You did not disappoint.
So very cool. So you can create your process. You can leverage the IDP and AI technologies on the front end at that capture point and get all the best data down. And then, of course, you can leverage that data within your workflow and approval process in OnBase workflow today. And you can tie it to your AI agent to ask the most important questions about all that great information to drive even better results downstream. That is elevating your AP solution with IDP, because we want to be able to find those fraud things. Travis gave you a great example of, hey, maybe this is not right, and we should take a look at it because people will submit fraudulent invoices. I know it's crazy, but it has happened, or abuse. I'm going to keep submitting them, duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. That's a problem. This will solve it for you. No more will that be a thing. You can also look at spend trends. You can look at all the different ways that you can manage those invoice terms to take advantage of those early paid discounts. And of course, you can automate all of that through a workflow engine. Really, really powerful tool. So that was a lot of information in a very quick insider session. Let's just do a quick recap. So we want to do an AP process with IDP and AI because we want to reduce costs and we want to improve the accuracy of our process and speed up how fast we can get those invoice cycle times down. Improve our security and compliance with that. Get more of those discounts. Because remember, 2% on $1 million is still $20,000 to the bottom line. That's a big win. All by leveraging AI to give us those insights necessary to improve our vendor relationships. So many great reasons, so many amazing tools to drive better AP processes in your organization. Now, if this wasn't enough, because I know in 30 minutes, Travis and I covered a lot, you can learn more over at ABBYY University, where the ABBYY Vantage, those things Travis was showing you so eloquently, are available on their website. And of course, Highland University, that Highland Knowledge Discovery, that AI agent that I was showing you is available directly through Highland Knowledge Discovery. So you can go play with it yourself. And taking this right back to the beginning, remember why efficiency is doing better what is already being done. In the last 30 minutes, you've seen how much better you can do by paying your invoices. It's amazing what the technology has brought to us, and I am so happy that we had Abby and Travis showcasing how amazing our IDP solution can make your AP process the best ever. Your AP document processing, never better at your fingertips. With Travis, I'm Chris. Look forward to seeing you again on our next Insider session.
See you all.